Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, Augusto Argandoña Fine Arts. Anytime in this narrated tutorial, you can click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel. If you want to learn about my virtual classes or want to see my paintings, you may do so in my website at aafinearts.com. This tutorial is about how to paint a watercolor scene that's in the winter, but with still with some vegetation, probably very early winter, because one can see some autumn type vegetation, colors, and some snow. It's a sunny scene. Probably was taken, the image was taken in the afternoon. The colors are very typical of an afternoon type scene. And this is, I believe, is the San Juan River, New Mexico. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and start with this tutorial. I'm going to be using some flat brushes, some round brushes, and I use, for the most part, I wouldn't say for the most part, I would say all the time I paint on 140-pound cold press bright white paper. And I like that type of paper. I have painted on natural watercolor paper, natural color, but it's too creamy. I prefer the bright white. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to put a little bit of water for the sky area, not much. There's not going to be much water there. But I'm going to bring some of that water into this area. There's some trees that are in the sunlight over here. And I'm going to avoid painting the top of this little bridge. So I'm going to be very careful to bring water just above the top of the little bridge. I believe it's a railroad bridge because it doesn't have any protective rails. And I'm going to bring some of that water here too. Actually, quite a bit of water into this area too. This is going to be a fairly soft type of depiction. I'm going to bring a little bit more water here, and then down here, under the bridge, and on the other side of that little railroad bridge. I wouldn't say, I would say railroad bridge, because if it was a pedestrian bridge, it would have railings on the side. So, okay. So I'm going to use a little bit of manganese blue. Not much. In fact, I think I'm going to change that. I'm going to use cerulean blue instead. Yeah, cerulean blue will be better with a little bit of ultramarine. The cerulean blue has a granulation effect, so I'm going to put a little bit of that color there. Not much on that wet paper. That's pretty much it for the sky. But I'm going to change brushes to a round brush now. I'm going to go ahead and start doing some of the coloration. Well, before I do that, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some cobalt blue, and I'm going to paint this bank on the opposite side of the bridge, like that. And I bring some of that blue here too, but I think I'm going to leave that alone. And I'm going to bring a little bit of ultramarine blue to that side over here, because that's going to be fairly dark. It's in the shade. And that's that's about it for that area. I'm gonna make sure that my paper is still fairly wet here, which is wet. And I'm gonna pick up some yellow ochre. And without much water in my brush, I'm gonna go ahead and put a little bit of the yellow ochre over here. Fairly light, like that. Bring a little bit more of the yellow ochre. Just a touch of burnt umber into this lower area. And again, yeah, just by the top of the bridge. Now I'm going to bring a little bit more of the yellow ochre with a touch of sepia also, very light. And I bring that yellow ochre like this, right into the sky area. And I'm going to bring a little bit of burnt sienna, start warming up some of these colors. Like that. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure that the paper is still damp here. It's almost dry, so I'm going to add a little bit of water here. Clean my brush, bring a little bit of water here, connect those areas. Come over here with this bank. Now I'm going to use more yellow ochre, much deeper now. I'm also going to use a little bit of new gamboge. Some of this vegetation is really bright, like that. Over here, right by the bridge. I'll bring some burnt sienna into that, and come over here and start darkening some of those areas, like that. Come over here, I'm going to go right on the other side of that support for the bridge. And bring some of those colors on the wet paper over here. Like that. And I'm going to bring some sepia. And come over here and add some sepia. But before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring more water into that area, because I don't want this color, the sepia, to be too intense. I'm going to add a little bit of water there, and I'm going to use some of the burnt sienna with the sepia. Like that. Bring those colors up here. That area is almost still kind of damp, but I'm going to bring a little bit more water into that area without disturbing the original color. And I'm going to bring some of that sepia into this area too. See, it's kind of light here. There, like that. Bring some of that over here. Bring some ultramarine into that mixture. And bring some of the ultramarine over here. Be very careful to not touch that bridge. I'm going to bring more yellow ochre with the burnt sienna into this area, like that. when the paper is wet. Like that. Bring some more yellow ochre by itself over here with that area where the paper is wet. And like that. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. And in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that this area has, well, it's dry. So I'm gonna add some water here, quite a bit of water into the area. And I'm gonna use some burnt sienna, quite a bit of the burnt sienna with the sepia, but mostly the burnt sienna. And on that wet area, I'm gonna bring the burnt sienna really dark over here. Like that. And I'm gonna bring in some of the ultramarine blue with that burnt sienna. Really dark over here, right by the bridge. A little bit of sepia too. Make this area dark. Get a little bit of the detail of the vegetation there, like that. Make it really dark. There we are. I'm going to bring in some brown matter into this area, a little bit of the reddy stone. Like that. I'm going to clean my brush and go back to the yellow ochre and touch that edge there like this. And like that. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to bring a little bit more yellow ochre by itself and come over here and give it a little bit of a warming touch to that area. This is looking really nice. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to bring a little bit of under sea green for some of this. There's a little touches of green here. Very, very light green. Like that, just a little bit, just a few touches of green. I'm going to touch a little bit of the green here too, just to complement the other side. Very little of that green here. There, like that. Okay, now this is damp. This is damp. So what I'm going to do here, and this is dry, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add some water right to the edge of that area and right to the edge of this area. Okay, and now I'm going to get some raw sienna with undersea green. Maybe a little, no, I'm going to use a permanent sub green. Yeah, permanent sub green with raw sienna and a little bit of cobalt blue. And come over here and do the top of those trees, the evergreens. That has to get in the sunlight. Like that. Maybe a little bit of undersea green also. Yeah, that's much better. Those evergreens on the hill. And while this is wet and this is wet, I'm gonna bring more of that undersea green, more of the paint of the permanent sap green, and I'm gonna bring in some Payne's gray, make that really dark. I come over here and well, that's it. All these areas are wet and this edge is wet. I'm gonna go ahead and do that too. So all that transition will be soft, like that. See over here and over here, nice and soft. I'm gonna bring a little bit of a sepia there too. That area is gonna be in the shade, so it's gonna be very dark. There we go, like that. Very, very dark. Like that, like that. And combine it right into this area. Bring some of that over here too. A little bit of the sepia, and a little bit more of the undersea green. Over here, do some of the darker areas. There, like that. And before I go any further, I'm going to pick up some cobalt blue, very dark cobalt blue with a little bit of ultramarine blue, and come over here and do this snow area that's over here. Like that. And come down and bring that vegetation, those trees, right to this edge, the little edge of this bridge. There, like that. That's snow area. Bring some of the sepia into that and get rid of some of those whites. And here comes that dark evergreen area. Blend it right into this area here. Look at this, all of this really beautiful. And I'll bring a little bit more Payne's gray and darken these evergreens. And do the strokes and the shapes of the trees, because this is still kind of wet, so it's really nice. There. There. Okay, there. Beautiful. So now I'm going to let that dry. And there was some lighted trees over here, but I'm not going to do it. I don't want to disturb this really beautiful area, edge and here too. I'm going to let it be. So now I will take my flat brush, pick up more cobalt blue, and come over here and do the snow bank. There we are. There, like that. Also going to bring a really light touch of violet to it. Very light. But mostly, I'm going to bring some ultramarine blue into that too. There. Right by the edge of the water, all that snow. I'll make some of those areas a little darker. Bring some more cobalt blue. I'm going to bring some cerulean blue into that too. There we are, that's good. The granulation quality of the cerulean blue works really great on snow in the shade. Oh, look at that, that's gorgeous. I'm gonna let that dry. Just a little bit of violet, just perfect. Now I'm not gonna touch that until it's completely dry. Okay, so now, while that is drying, I'm gonna go back over here and start doing a little bit more detail in this area. This is pretty much dry. So I'm gonna get some of the browns and do a little bit more detail of some of the vegetation here, like that. Like that. Then I'm gonna get some water, remove the moisture from the brush, and soften those edges. Keep it all soft, like that. I'm gonna barely dampen this area a little bit. Bring a little bit more of the yellow ochre and come over here on that damp paper. I barely dampen it. I didn't wet the paper. And get all that blending right there like that. Now I'm going to bring some more of I'm going to bring some aureolin yellow. Aureolin yellow with the yellow ochre. And brighten this area up a little bit more. Like that. And while this is damp, I'm gonna wait for the dampness so I can do the tree trunks. Let me see if I can do here. Yeah, that's good. Now wait a little bit more. Come over here with a thicker. Now, I'm also going to bring some burnt sienna, more burnt sienna, very rich burnt sienna here. Like that. And add a little bit of water to that area. Let that burnt sienna sink into those areas there. And I'll bring some of the sepia in that area too. Get some of the detail there. A little bit of the sepia here. A little bit over here. And then I'm going to take my pocket knife and do some rocks, pick up some rocks over here. There, like that. There. Okay. And darken this area a little bit. Like that. A little bit more detailing for the lower bushes there. A little bit over here. Kind of soften it with the finger. Like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to bring a little bit more sepia into this area. because this is pretty much in the shade. I kind of blend it right into this area over here. Do a little bit of texturing for some of the vegetation that's in the shade here. There, like that. Okay. Okay, now I'm gonna get some more sepia and come over here and do that bridge. Blend all of this right into that. But I'm gonna leave a line of white and blend it right into the support of that bridge. There, like that. Get rid of all those whites. Come over here and make sure I have that line white, the snow that's on top of the bridge. There. Bring that sepia right and building up that bridge. And blend it right into the sepia over here. Okay, so that bridge is done. I'm going to darken this area a little bit more. There, like that. Bring some of that dark over here too. Bring some ultramarine blue into that. Really darken this area. There. There we are. There. Now, before this dries, I'm going to add some water there, soften it. There. Bring some of the brown so it doesn't turn green with the ultramarine. There, like that. Okay, so this is dry. It's almost dry. So now I'm going to take my flat brush and I'm going to start doing the water. So for that, I'm going to use some, I'm going to start with cerulean blue and cobalt blue. And come over here. And like that. This is going to be much darker. But I'm going to start with those colors. And I'm also going to bring in some ultramarine blue with I use an ultramarine blue and maybe a little bit of sepia and Payne's gray because it's going to be darker. The water is going to be darker. I'm going to start with some sepia. Like this. Right to that. Some ultramarine with the sepia. Like that. Over here. There's some rocks over here, but I'm not going to do them. Like that. More ultramarine, very deep now, and sepia. Bring that quite a bit of ultramarine. I'm going to bring some cobalt blue into that with the sepia. really dark over here. Kind of gray tone for that water. There, like that. Okay, that's the base color for the water. While that is wet, I'm going to get rid of that blossom. There, like that. And while that is wet, I'm going to clean my brush and bring some of the burnt sienna with the yellow ochre for the reflection from these areas right onto that blue. All of this is casting a reflection here. A little bit more burnt sienna. There. There, like that. Maybe a little bit of that color over here too. Like that. I bring more ultramarine with Payne's gray this time. And come back over here and start doing the darker areas of that water. Under the bridge too. Like that. And while this is, oh, it's almost dry. Add a little bit of water here. Like that. I'm going to bring more ultramarine blue with Payne's gray into this area. Make this really dark. Also bring in some burnt umber to this area. Some Payne's gray with burnt sienna, Payne's gray and burnt sienna over here. Like that. And also clean my brush. I'm going to bring some clean burnt sienna on this area. Like that. And they come over here and do the movement of the water. A little bit more burnt sienna in this area. All of this. The reflection of those colors. That burnt sienna and the Payne's gray work really wonderful for that. I'll bring that there. And lighten up some of these areas. Bring some of those colors there. And I'll bring a little bit of yellow ochre here. Like that. And oh, look at this, beautiful. I'm going to soften this. Some ripples there. Beautiful colors. There, like that. Now, I'm going to bring in a little bit more cobalt blue, this time with some of the violet. here. Like that. Like that, there we are. Oh, look at these gorgeous colors, right? I'm gonna let that dry. Bring a little bit of that color over here too. Yeah, like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to my with a round brush, pick up some of the undersea green, blend it with this dark gray that I have, put some Payne's gray, and come over here and do the rest of these little trees on the other side. Leave those patches of snow. And come over here, I'm gonna add a little bit of sepia too. And on this area here, the patches of snow. Blend it right into that brown over here, like that. I'm gonna leave this, I'm gonna get rid of this light color. There, like that. Okay, so now I'm not gonna touch the water. The water is just perfect. However, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna put some water. This is dry, yep. I'm gonna put some water here. And bring it over here too. There, like that. And I'm gonna pick up some burnt umber with ultramarine, make a kind of a gray, and come over here and there's some of that gray tone here. Trees, like that. And then I'm gonna go pick up some of the undersea green, bring some of that green over here. There's some evergreens coming out of that gray area. I'm also gonna bring in some yellow ochre to some of those areas like that. Pick up a little bit more of the green, the evergreens over here. I don't want to touch this, so I'm going to do this like that. And like that. And bring some of that green to this area. And then I'm going to pick up some burnt sienna, quite a bit of burnt sienna. I bring it over here, like that. Blend it into that, and then some sepia with that burnt sienna, and make this much darker, like that. Get some of the undersea green into that, and darken all these areas. Well, the paper is wet, do like that, and do some of these evergreens. Like that. More of the burnt sienna also. do a little bit of with the edge, with the side edge of the brush. I'm gonna do a little bit of the detail for some of the vegetation here, like this. That's in that area. There, like that. Some over here. Some over here too. There. Bring some Payne's gray. And bring the dark in this area. There, like that. They do the edge. All those, that snowbank, with some dark areas over here, like that, and a little bit more of the Payne's gray, and the green, and I'm going to do those evergreens here. Okay, like that. Okay, now, this is dry now, so I'm going to pick up some burnt umber and a little bit of sepia and do the exposed soil through the snow. Like that. Right down by the water. Blend it right into this dark area. And like that. Like that. Here. That's this. There's no area that's exposed, but I can tell right away that I need to darken that. So I'm going to bring some ultramarine blue to this area over here. Like that. Kind of dirty snow there. There. And it's good. Also need to bring some of the violet. Into this area too. Just a little bit of the violet and all the dirty snow there. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry. But before it dries, I'm gonna bring in a little bit more of the green and do some of the more of the greens over here. And like that. Okay, so now I'm going to take, oh, look at this reflections, really, really beautiful. I'm going to take some of the brown and brown sienna and do a little bit of the roughness over here too. Like that there, beautiful colors. Bring some of that brown sienna here. There, like that. All right. I'm gonna let this dry. Oh, look at that. That's gorgeous. I'm gonna let that dry. And I'm going to, see, this is Miss, I'm gonna pick up some tree trunks. This is already dry. Yep. Already done. It's all right. Not those tree trunks need to be dark anyway. So I'm gonna get rid of that white speck there. Put a little bit of sepia, brown sienna there like that. And it takes care of that. Okay, so this is pretty much dry, so I'm gonna get a smaller brush, pick up some sepia and cobalt blue, and come over here and do some of the tree trunks. Through the foliage. This is the fun part. Doing the tree trunks is really fun. A little bit more sepia, a little bit more cobalt blue, and then we'll come over here. Like that. Come over here and a little bit more sepia. Get rid of that. Okay, here we go. Like that. Now I'm going to bring that brush and bring smaller brush, a little bit of ultramarine with that. And there's some thicker trunks over here. Yeah, like that. There's another one over here. And there's yeah. And in between the trees. Yeah, like that. There's some over here. And there's one over here that's thicker. Down right by the snowbank. There, like that. Yeah. And I'm going to bring another one over here by this snowbank. Yeah, like that. Same thing. I'm going to pick up, get that sepia with some burnt umber and do a few of those over here. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pick up my rigger brush and do that with the rigger brush. Same thing over here. I'm gonna get some of the lighter branches. There, like that. And some of the little twigs of the saplings. Like that there. Branches that are, the snow kind of dropped them, made them droopy. All kinds of branches over here. And like that. Okay. Lastly, I'm going to take my flat brush, pick up all this sepia that's in my palette, all these browns. I'm going to combine it with some cobalt blue. And on this dry paper, I'm going to do a little bit more of this darker areas of the ripples in the water. Over here. Like that. A little bit more cobalt blue. Over here, and do a little bit more of that. Those ripples, the moving water. I'm going to leave this alone. And the painting is done. So I'm going to remove this tape, bring a dark board, so you will be able to see how this looks like. Get rid of this tape. This upper area. And here comes my dartboard. And I'm going to pick this up. Bend it a little bit. And minimize it. And there it is, San Juan River, early winter. I hope you enjoyed watching this tutorial, and please visit my website at aafinearts.com, where you will see information about my virtual classes and a selection of my paintings and prints. And please remember to click on the subscribe button to subscribe to my channel, and I would also appreciate your comments in regards to this painting, and for that matter some of the other videos in my channel. Thank you again. Until next time.